All right. I got bored and I was thinking about Monster Hunter. So I decided to make this video. It's gonna go over all these old Monster Hunter World videos that I made and some of my favorite ones. So back when I started Monster Hunter World, I wasn't like super serious about it or anything, but it was really fun. And eventually I discovered the speedrunning community of Monster Hunter World. And there's two rule sets that were at the time. So basically, one rule set is what I did, was just freestyle, no rules, and the other one was TA Wiki rules, which is a lot more limited, trying to show like the weapon mastery against the monster. But yeah, I was more interested in sort of the creative things you could do in this game. That's why I liked it so much. So a lot of my videos are less speedruns and more like concepts and stuff, and, gimmick runs, but some of the goal of doing it fast. But the first run that I did getting into it was with the most brain dead weapon at the time. It was cluster heavy bowgun, extremely powerful weapon, but very vulnerable. So you would use the Rocksteady mantle to reduce or basically negate any knockbacks or stuns or anything, and just shoot this rocket in the face of the monster. And you had spare shot, so your DPS was random because it took a long time to reload, but sometimes you would shoot without spending any ammo. So yeah, just this is a fun run because you run into the middle of Teostra and Lunastra, and then you spam your clusters and hope for the best. So yeah, because of spare shot, this run's super random, but it was my first one, and I really liked that you could get into speedrunning, abusing some really brain dead strategies. So another extremely powerful strategy in Monster Hunter World was this aerial greatsword technique. And so I started learning it because I thought it looked cool. It's very repetitive. And what you'll see here is you can break the floor here to create some ledges. Um, and you're going to see there's a strategy that you can do against certain elder dragons where you can mount them. They'll jump into the air and then you can hit them in the head again and they'll fall to the floor like that. And this lets you set up perfectly for this ledge attack repeat. And this was pretty much the highest DPS you could do with Great Sword in Monster Hunter World, so I thought it was kind of funny. Now you'll see I'm using the Evasion Mantle. It doesn't give you the armor like Rocksteady Mantle does, but it gives you a huge attack boost. And you can actually proc that attack boost by dodging attacks, or this is sort of like a bug. You can dodge them falling down from a dunk like I did, and that'll also proc that attack boost from the Evasion Mantle. So that was the base Teostra. This one's Arc Tempered AT Teostra, which has a way higher health pool. So I used this food skill that you can get by eating at the canteen called Feline Heroics. It gives you a massive 35% damage increase, more than any other skill. And I get Tio to bump into me to take some damage, and I'm taking damage from like the lava and everything. And then I'm gonna reduce my health down with these bombs and blow up the floor to show those ledges again. And I'm gonna use all the attack buffs that I can get. So this run took me a lot of time to get one that was like satisfactory. And part of the reason why is because of the cat orchestra buff, like I got right there. It's random and it's the highest DPS increase of any of the cat gadgets. Anyway, there were multiple people working on this run at the time, and I think I was probably the first one to get like a decent run. But there are people that did it better than me down the line. Yeah, proc to the evasion mantle on that dunk, like I said earlier, giving me another huge attack boost. Now, the health pool of AT Teostra is so much bigger that you actually end up running out of these buffs from the affinity booster and the evasion mantle. And as you continue to chain these dunks, these mount dunks, um, it also moves the position a little bit. So I'm getting like weirder and weirder positions to jump off this ledge. So yeah, shout outs to everybody that was working on similar things as this, because this took me a lot of time and a lot of grief because of all the randomness and the finickiness of the ledge. So here's another funny strategy that I did with the heavy bowgun with the clusters. Now, as well as the feline heroics. Skip through some of the start. So Arc-Tempered Lunastra was pretty funny because Lunastra was a so flash pods were really OP in base Monster Hunter World, but Lunastra was an anti-flash pod monster. If you flash podded it, it would power up. So what I ended up doing was flash podding it on purpose. And while it's flash potted, it will spam very powerful attacks, but since it's confused, it won't spam them at you. And then this is its powerful Nova attack. So I get it to use its powerful Nova attack to put me at 1 HP. Use a small barrel bomb to... Let's put it back to normal speed. Use a small barrel bomb to keep me at 1 HP. And then basically I alternate between shooting the mortars and flash potting to keep it stuck down there. And remember when I was talking about the spare shot RNG to refund your mortar attacks? Well, this one I had a lot of spare shots, and it was enough to increase my DPS to the point that I didn't actually run out of ammo, because you have a limited amount of ammo before you can before you have to restock at camp. So yeah, I can barely see the monster, and I just have this silly little mortar strategy. Get caught by some roars there, and it's going to do its Nova again, and I'm just trying to stay out of the range of that super attack. And then I can still do damage while it's busy doing that. Boom! Big Nova. Running out of ammo here. One last reload. My last materials to craft more ammo. Turned out to be enough. So that was probably the funniest run that I did, but you can see how brain dead the cluster heavy bowgun is. The heavy bowgun is definitely the best weapon in base world, and here's a little trick that you could do against Pink Rathian on this map. You can hit it with a dung pod from the start, and it will run to this area. Anyway, this is the highest DPS you can do within the special ammo meter. So this is a different heavy bowgun. Tareth Horn, I believe. You get it from Colby Tareth, and it's the Diablo one. Diablos. And when you activate it, it becomes like this crazy Gatling gun that you can use for a limited amount of time. It's the highest DPS in that amount of time. And you can capture a full Pink Rathian there with that DPS. That's a fun one. Odogaron Unleashed was a popular quest because you spawn really near the Odogaron and there's a ledge here. So this is a gimmick that I used with the Apothecary Mantle. Again, I like to try different things. I stealth so it can't see me. Then I hit it with that pod so that it'll run to me, get stuck in the trap, and then I can do the aerial greatsword here with the trap. And I'm actually proccing sleep on every hit with the Apothecary Mantle. Spin attack to put it to sleep out of its counter. Charge up a level 3 TCS, or level 2. 1200 damage to wake up TCS. That's enough for a capture. Yeah, that's one of the more creative runs that I did, even though it was aerial greatsword. The sleep and the TCS on wake up. Wake up deals double damage. It was cool. And here's another sleep greatsword setup with the Assassin's Hood. So there's an Assassin's Creed collab, and the Assassin's Hood, if you attacked an enemy that was not aggroed to you. So I'm not aggroed at all. You'll see that this isn't red. This map isn't red. So since I snuck up on it and trapped it before it saw me, the Assassin's Creed mantle will work on the first hit that you do. So I pop a might pill, huge attack boost for a very short amount of time. And then again, I do the level 2 TCS and bam, 1800 damage, which is really high at the time. I liked trying different weapons too, and this is just a showcase of Switch Axe when there's a lot of bodies to hit, including dead bodies of the small monsters. You see tons of numbers, a lot of hit lag. One of the more satisfying things that I did in Monster Hunter World. All those procs on the Switch Axe, bam, with the zero-sum discharge finisher. So yeah, now you're gonna see these like not really speed runs, but concept runs. So I got bored of like trying to go for the fastest time, and I was trying to explore weird things with different weapons. So here's an aerial hunting horn video, and what I found in the special arena is there's this little gap where you can hop across with a roll. What you're gonna see is set up that trap, and you can hop back and forth and use the aerial attack of the hunting horn. And then there's also the aerial encore attack, which will put you to the same side, and it'll do an additional hit if you have an encore like stored up. And here I'm back to using the gap, but I get pushed away. So yeah, I wasn't really a perfectionist in these runs. As long as it like sort of worked, I was happy about it. Go for the capture here. Aerial encore and get the capture. Yeah, so I used like weaker monsters to showcase what I was trying to do because I didn't have as much of a high health pool. So here's Azure Rathalos, and it was another popular speedrunning monster for freestyle because it had a very set behavior. First of all, it barely noticed you, and second of all, as soon as you like aggroed it, it would always do this jumping fireball. So here I just start the attack, start the run by putting those bombs at its feet, and then it gets enraged because I did enough damage, and it will also it will do that jumping fireball, hit those bombs that I put at its feet, and so basically the entire fight it doesn't get to fight. So that's just one example, and here's an example with I break the floor so that these don't explode on their own because they will otherwise. When the dragon does its fire jump attack. And here I start the fight with stun sticky grenades. And they will stun there like that. So instead of using the LBG mines, I use barrel bombs here. And you could do this with every weapon. I proc the evasion mantle buff by rolling the roar. It dunks itself. I liked this dragon ammo, but it wasn't very good. You get to see a lot of numbers. I retreat to my trap. Get the capture that way. And here's another Azure Rathalos run. I used it because it's, again, easy to showcase on this monster. And this time I'm doing something kind of rare. I'm using the aerial longsword technique, which is very rare because you have to fully charge up your longsword to get the most out of it, and that takes some time, unlike other weapons. So I have to use an entire trap just to level up my longsword to the max level of longsword buff. Roar to get the evasion buff. It dunks itself. And you get this triple hitting aerial attack on the ledge that you can repeat. Yeah. So with these non-elder monsters, you can spam traps on them to sort of bypass the entire fight, which was pretty lame, but again, just kind of showcasing the DPS of aerial longsword there. And this is a different, uh, same idea, but a different weapon. This is Gunlance, and this is in Iceborne. So once we kind of figured out the Clutch Claw, the new addition to Iceborne, the game got a little bit stale because you would kind of do the same pattern of using the Clutch Claw. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm setting up the Clutch Claw on Banbaro. What you can do is you can attach a certain ammo to it and it will stun it when you hit it. I'm on the ledge doing the aerial reload attack from Gunlance. It's not as strong as other aerial weapons, but it looks pretty cool. This Gunlance super cool. It's the Brachydios, the Raging Brachydios one. Yeah. But in Iceborne, a lot of the monsters had a higher health pool, so you know, you can't really try stuff, weird and wacky stuff, in a fast way anymore. Like those runs will take like way longer than I was willing to do showcases for, basically. Like this is one of the weakest monsters in Iceborne. So yeah, I trap it up and here's another funny run. See what I do. That's right. You can use the glider mantle, another mantle equipment, to basically do this air attack. You can glide forward with the glider mantle and do the unsheath air attack with any weapon. So here I'm showcasing it with the heavy bow gun, which does a little bit of stun, so I get a KO. And I'm using some of the init status ammo to CC the monster. However, this is a very weak monster, like it's a low rank one, just so that I could do the showcase. Here I'm going to show first this funny cancel technique that we found. People have since then optimized it with macros and stuff because it's pretty hard to control. But you can see at the beginning there's a lot of recoil, but if you recoil it off of certain ledges, you just completely cancel that recoil. So here's a run where I showcase that technique. This is one of the first ones using the technique. Again against Odogaron because he spawns close near the ledge. And the reason why you would want to do the recoil thing is because if you max out your attack stats on the LBG attachments, then you don't have the recoil stats. So this is max attack, and we can cancel the recoil with the ledge trick. And this is not as fast as you can do it. You could do it a lot faster. And in fact, people started using macro. Well, one person started using macros for it for speed runs. But yeah, this was like a early showcase of the technique. So I thought it was pretty cool. This was one of my earlier runs, and the reason why I'm including it is even though it uses the cluster heavy bowgun brain dead strategy, um, you fight two monsters, so it's actually really strong against that with the AoE. And I actually use the funniest way to activate Feline Heroics, the low health attack buff. So I'm using the cleanser booster. You will almost never see the cleanser booster in a speed run, and that's why this is one of my favorite runs. The reason why I'm using the cleanser booster is because these little Gajalakas that are dealing damage to me to get me to low health, they have status effects. You can see my Palico's poisoned. They have status effects like paralysis and sleep and poison. So I use the cleanser booster to avoid that. And now I'm low health, and I can set up my little area that I'm going to AoE damage the two monsters that I'm going to fight. The rocks that I picked up to try to attract. There's a pink Rathian and there's a Legiana. This isn't like the fastest you can do it. People found out faster ways to attract both of them together. So yeah, this is one of my earliest runs, so it's not like super optimized, but I thought it was really cool because you can see I'm doing like 112 damage, 113 damage with the Feline Heroics attack boost. And I got healed by the Palico, which reduces that boost. But Agitator activates. So I do about 90 damage instead of 100. Here's another double monster quest that I did. The method that I got to attract the green Rathian and the pink Rathian is just to hold its egg. Because this is it's a double kill quest. So I go and pick up the wyvern egg. And you can see on my map in the bottom left that I'm just kind of waiting. Because, okay, I think I've triggered it now, and so the green Rathian's going to come in, and so I set down the traps. Put down the booster and the Rocksteady Mantle so I don't get knocked back or anything. That little pink Rathian that falls into the trap, and you can see I'm sort of AoEing the Rathian's wing and the pink Rathian trap. Not the cleanest fight. With a lot. But that was just showcasing trying to gather two Rathians with the egg. So here's like the last quest in Monster Hunter World, the base game. It's 4 of the signature monsters of each area, and this one is particularly easy because they're reduced health. But what I do is I time basically 2 uses of the heavy bowgun Wyvern Heart, the Gatling gun, on the first and the last monster. So the second monster, I'm going to use the Aerial Greatsword to really quickly capture it. Again, this is extremely high DPS for the time. Puts it at low enough health that the next attack will trigger its counter, and it will go to the right where it gets captured, and then I can capture it quickly. Now the third monster is Diablos from the Wasteland. It's extremely weak to ice, and we had an extremely strong ice weapon called the Kolvetereth Ice Charge Blade. I don't remember what it was actually called. And so you can charge it up against the dead body of the Odogaron. Basically, after 2 SAEDs, it's almost capturable. So I get it out of the ground with the Screamer Pod, and then I get another capture. And at this point, the special ammo of the heavy bowgun is basically recharged enough at about 5 minutes so that I get one more use to capture the last monster, which is Rathalos. I also, I think, switched the. I don't remember. Yeah, I don't think I switched the Palico thing, but I used the Palico shock trap tool instead of the horn boost. So we get the evasion mantle boost, we get the trap, we get the tranquilizers, and then we just deal enough DPS with the special ammo to get that last capture. And at that time, this was the fastest time for that quest, so that was kind of fun. So yeah, there's a bunch of Monster Hunter content that I did over like 1 or 2 years for Monster Hunter World that I found, interesting going back over. Yeah, it was a fun time.